If you are a fan of Tissot, then I have no doubt that you will love the Tissot PRX Chrono. But the question is, would you go for the blue or would you go for the white? Welcome back to Time on the Wrist at Chisholm Hunter. My name is Harrison, as always, and it's been a while since I've done a normal Time on the Wrist episode, but by popular demand, you guys were wanting to see the PRX Chrono. So we have two today, and I'm going to be helping you choose between the blue dial and the white dial. So let's begin with the basic specs of both of these watches because they do have the same specs, and then let's discuss what color suits what situation and what color you should go for. So this watch comes in at 42 millimeters in diameter, although it wears considerably chunkier because of those pushers at the right hand side and the crown and the thickness. The thickness of this watch comes in at, according to our digital calipers, 14.5, maybe 14.6 millimeters in thickness. And that is why it wears substantially bigger than a 42 millimeter in my opinion. You have the combination of the pushers and that extra thickness. So this is a big chunky watch. Another reason as to why it looks and sits that little bit chunkier is the way that the case and bracelet are designed. It's an integrated bracelet, so the case slopes off gradually before it stops, thus extending the case that little bit further. This can do one of two things. This can make it look really, really good in the wrist because it looks like it's wrapping round your wrist, but on the same spectrum, it can extend the head of the watch, making it look chunkier. So if you have a watch that's 42, 43, 44 millimeters, it looks that little bit bigger. Just beware if you have bigger or smaller wrists. Now, to be honest, guys, I am a fan of the 70s inspired bracelet, but when it comes to a watch as thick as this, I do feel that it makes the head look that little bit too extended. So I think that if it was me, I would slim down the face of this watch in order to have that bracelet looking in proportion, but that is just one man's opinion. And before we go on to the bracelet, which I'm a huge fan of, let's get this on the scales and see how much it weighs. So, on the scales, with the full set of links, I've not taken any links out of this, it comes in at 185 grams. This is interesting. And the reason that it's interesting is because I knew that it weighed and felt a lot heavier than my Tissot PRX, just the standard Powermatic 80 movement, but I didn't realize how much heavier it was. So when I put my Tissot PRX on the scales, it comes in considerably lighter. It comes in at 128 grams. Now we move on to that 70s inspired design bracelet, which I am a huge, huge fan of. I mean, when you sort of reflect in the light, it bounces down a link every single time. It looks so much more expensive than it is in reality. And I don't say that in a bad way, I say that in the best way possible. I mean, when you look at 70s inspired bracelets, you'll find them on Vacheron Constantin, AP Royal Oaks, and maybe Patek Philippe Nautiluses. And they are all at a huge, huge price. Thank you very much. And if you look at Tissot, they're reasonable. To add to that, the clasp on this model, if you look on the back of the watch just here, is actually a butterfly clasp that opens it at both sides like so. That is what we in the watch industry call a butterfly clasp. Now, if you look at the bracelet itself, you can see that it is in brushed steel instead of polished. To me, brushed steel gives a bracelet more longevity than polished. And the reason for that is that you can see sort of scratches, wear and tear more in polished steel rather than brushed. And I think that's where Tissot really come through here. They really clutch up, so to speak. If you're in Scotland, that's what you'd say. You'd say clutch up, because you can wear this watch every day. This is a genuine piece of kit that you can put on every single day, and you aren't worried about getting it knocked up, getting it dented, and that's why it works. Next up, we are going to move on to the face and the movement of both of these models before discussing the inevitable, before discussing the colors. But before we do that, we have a pretty exciting giveaway. We have the Chisholm Hunter watch box, which has only taken a year to come in. All you have to do to win one of these watch boxes is firstly subscribe to the channel. Secondly, comment with what is your favorite color. And thirdly, follow the Chisholm Hunter Watches Instagram page. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, guys. I really appreciate it. And hopefully, if you're lucky, you'll get one of these. Now we move on to the dial of both of these models, and that is where most of the differences lie, shall we say. Firstly, let's start with the indices and the hands of the white dial. They come in a rose gold color. Now, this rose gold color to me screams vintage, it screams classic. But on the blue dial, they come in silver. They're that silvery reflective color. Both of these are very easy to read, but I just feel that the white dial, which by the way, it looks more silver than it does white in my humble opinion, is just that little bit more classic looking. It's just that little bit more vintage inspired. So do you want a more vintage inspired or do you want a more sporty feel? If you want the more sporty feel, I would stick with blue. Both of these models are chronograph models, so they have a 60-second counter at the 9 o'clock mark, a 12-hour counter at the 6 o'clock mark, and a 30-minute counter at the 3 o'clock mark, as well as a date window that is cushioned comfortably in between the 4 and the 5, I would say at half 4. So it's all very well proportioned. The colors of the subdials, however, that's where a big difference begins to show. When you get to the blue dial, it has silver subdials, whereas when you get to the white dial, it has black subdials. Now, personally, I would say that the black subdials are easier to read than the silver, because it's silver on silver. The hand is silver and the subdial is silver on the blue, whereas the hand is gold, the numerals are white, and the subdial is black on the white dial. I would just have to go with white. Before we move on to the colors of both of these models and which one you should go for, let's move on to the movement of this model and cover some pretty interesting stats. Before we go any further, we have a gift for you. And no, it is not the watch box this time. It is an exclusive discount code for selected lines. If you head to chisholmhunter.co.uk and use the discount code CHSUB, that is CHSUB, you get 10% off selected lines for being a subscriber of the channel. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and supporting Chisholm Hunter. On with the video. This Vacheron movement is an ETA movement, but it does have up to 60 hours of power. It comes in at 30 millimeters in diameter, has 27 joules, and is of course fully automatic. Now, this is where it gets interesting because I know what a lot of you are going to say. You're going to say, well, why haven't they got their own in-house movement for this launch? Why haven't they invested into themselves and made the in-house movement? A lot of people are prejudiced towards brands that don't use in-house movements. I do not think it's bad that a brand uses an ETA movement. These movements have been trialed and tested again and again and again. And to be honest, guys, it makes it cheaper than buying a brand that has an in-house movement. So that is why this can be at the price that it is. So I have no prejudice against the fact that it's not an in-house movement. I think the ETAs are powerhouses. With that said, this comes in at £1,500. This is getting near the top end of Tissot's range. If they go any higher, I would want to start seeing their own movements. Now, we have ranted enough about the movement. Let's get to the reason that you probably clicked in this video in the first place. Let's get to the colors of these watches and which one you should go for. So, my decision, I'm just gonna tell you my decision from the get-go, would be the white. I think that the white dial is more clean, more classical, and it won't age as much as the blue. Now, yes, the blue is a nice color. The blue is sporty, the blue is young. I'm 25 now, I'm not that young. I think that the blue would maybe go out of fashion quicker than the white would. And for a price of £1,500, that's a lot of money. I wouldn't want my watch to go out of fashion that quick. On the note of fashion, colors come in and out of fashion. And what we can see in the watch industry is everybody being gravitated, everybody being pulled towards the blue and the green. And when people go one way in the industry, I tend to go the other. I don't know what it is, I just tend to go for the underdog. And in my opinion, the white dial is the underdog. So although the blue is clean, it's young, it's good, I'd have to stick with the white. But guys, that is just one old man's opinion. I'm 25, I'm on the wrong side of 20. I'm approaching 30, so you know, my styles change. I've got my old man brown jumper on now, it's winter. I'm feeling the cold a little bit more, so I'd love to hear the younger men's opinion. Would you go for the blue, the younger, more trendy, stylish, or would you go for the more vintage, classical looking white? I would love to know your opinion. Please let me know in the comments. Please hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video.